How can we achieve the full squat in the fastest possible way? In this workout, I'm going to be taking you through some brand new exercises that I believe are the most efficient way of getting the full squat position. It's going to take a different time for every one of us, and we've got to practice slowly and carefully, but it makes sense to use the most efficient exercises. Which ones are going to get us there fastest? So start off by just standing up and twisting left and right with me, and I'll take you through these exercises one by one. Now, this is a unique training, and I call this training body efficiency training. I've developed over many years of internal and external martial arts, and I'm seeking the most efficient ways of using the body. I'm trying to get effortless movement and effortless strength, so it's a different approach. Now, this is the very first exercise, and you wouldn't expect this. This is a sort of primal marching. Now, actually what we're doing is moving into a half squat position, and you see there, you might have noticed I tucked my socks in the back of my trousers. I forgot about it, but don't be distracted by that. So we're marching up and down on the spot. One leg is coming up, and at the same time the other leg is bending down. So you're moving into a sort of half squat position with both legs, but one is in the air and one is on the ground. Now, this is important because we've got to learn how to pull our leg up into the squat. And when you pull the leg up, you're trying to project the hip backwards. You keep the belly pulled in and project the hip bone, the hip behind you. So you're using the psoas muscle and the hips to lift up the leg more than the thigh. And you're doing the same with the supporting leg. And now that means we need to work the psoas muscle, and this exercise here is for the psoas muscle. So you're sitting on the floor, loose legs, knees out, and you're trying to keep a nice vertical spine and just lever back at the hips and pull yourself up. So I'm not using the hands to pull, I'm just levering from low down in the psoas muscle. And now here, next one, pull your leg up towards your belly. So now this is important because you want to flex the ankle and you want to flex the hip. So you're trying to pull your toes back to your shin, but you're also trying to project your hip backwards. So you're trying to feel a projection in your back hip. You're trying to flex the toes back and project your back hip. Now, this is quite advanced what I'm doing next, but if you can just do that, that's good enough. Now I'm trying to hold the knee bent towards 90 degrees, and if I can pull my toes back at just the right angle, the knee doesn't want to bend anymore, instead the hips go back. This is very tricky, very fiddly, but it's worth playing around with. See if you can find the right angle to pull your toes back, that you feel it push at the back of the hips. This is very important for moving up and down. You're trying to use the ankle and the hip and not so much the knee. You see, you want to play around with the angle. If you pull your toes back and down, of course it flexes the toes to the shin. If you pull your toes upwards a bit, it makes your knee want to go back. So you've got to play around with the angle, pulling the toes at just the right angle that you feel the effect go to the back hip, and you allow the hip to go backwards. This is key. You need to learn how to stretch the hip joint and stretch the ankle. This is where the squat position, these are the joints that are needed to be used in the squat position. And here, just pull the leg in. So now you're pulling in the leg as tight as possible and trying to pull the heel towards the sit bone. And now we're doing it at a slightly different angle. Let the hip drop out a bit and pull the leg in. You want to learn how to collapse the leg and collapse the leg in as tight as possible. You've got to have the knees slightly apart, so that allows space for your spine as well. You see, you don't want to pull them into your belly too tight because that also just prevents you getting down. You open them up a little bit apart to allow space for your spine, and now you're stretching the hip side to side, rotating the hip. So hold your foot out and drop the knee in, hold the foot in and drop the knee out. Try and feel the rotation in the hip joint, loosening up the hip joint. This is where all the motion happens for the squat position. Turn the knee in and turn the knee out. Just do it as much as you can, gradually trying to increase it, but be careful you're not twisting the knee, you're only twisting the hip joint. And you're trying to work out how to use and feel the joints directly. So you want to control the hip joint. So now I'm going down to a squat onto the ball of the feet. So most of us can at least do that. And from this squat at the ball of the feet, this is probably the best way to get the full squat. You're sitting on your sit bones, so your heels line up with your sit bones, your toes are pointing slightly out in line with your knees that point slightly out. So you keep your toes and knees in alignment, pull your belly in, and you're trying to project your hips backwards. So you gradually rock your weight forward, stay on the toes, and then rock your weight back, trying to get the heels down and trying to project your hips backwards. So you've got to concentrate on pulling your belly in, pulling the thigh to the belly. So you're using the psoas muscle. You're trying to project your hips, really feel the bones stretch out at the back. You try not to use your lower back. It's not your lower back, it's the hips and the psoas. And at the same time, you're trying to flex the ankle, stretch the Achilles tendon, and gradually you'll get closer and closer to the full squat from the heel squat. And now here is another one. So from the heel squat, knees slightly apart, again toes in line with the knees. You're on the ball of the foot and you just shift your weight side to side, trying to collapse each leg a bit further. You're still staying on the ball of the foot. You're trying to push your heel to your sit bone and drop your knee over your toes to really stretch the ankle. You're trying to stretch the Achilles tendon as much as possible, trying to get your toes to flex back and touch your shin bone. So this is the flexibility you need in the ankle. And at the same time, you're stretching out the hip joints. Keep the belly pulled in, trying not to use the lower back. Keep a natural arch in the spine as best as possible. You're trying to mobilize the hip joint, each one individually, and at the same time really stretch the Achilles tendon by pushing your body weight into your knee over your toes, so you really stretch out the ankle joint. Okay, so practice very slowly and carefully. Always feel your own body. Work to this slowly. There's no rush. This should be easy. And please do let me know in the comments how you get on. Okay, hope you enjoyed this little video. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.